up, everybody? I'm Sal Kalani. This is Reggie Steele. And welcome to Spitballin. Spitballin.
What's up, everybody? I'm Sal Kalani. This is Reggie Steele.
And welcome to Spitballin.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
We got a
We
guest
back.
today. We're excited. Before that, though, let's bring down the room. Shout out, of course, to the LGBT community. Another hate crime towards them, shooting in Colorado Springs. Two of the patrons took the gunner down, which is cool. But yeah, it's sad,
Unfortunate
man.
they had to, though.
Yeah, his grandfather's this right-wing Assembly, California, MAGA Republican. You know, it's just like you brew that hate. This kid got busted last year. It's just I could go on, but it's something needs to change because doing nothing solves nothing.
Right. Yeah, man. I'm my condolences to all the families, the friends and families of those that were lost and injured. So sorry, man. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that this is what it's come down to. I don't know how long it's going to take for someone to truly do something. I mean, I don't even know where to start, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's an ideology.
And like,
It's in
there's
the
like
home.
red flag laws, and they said the majority of those don't even get reported. And how much is that really going to do? It's I don't know. All I know is nut jobs have easy access to guns.
Yeah.
And they're murdering people at a
Well,
record break. There's 600 mass shootings already this year.
Jeez,
In America.
that's ridiculous.
America,
That's ridiculous.
baby.
We're supposed to be a civilized country. That's so uncivilized. Man, honestly, what it comes down to is I think it's inclusivity, exposure, and we have to change the conversation around all the communities, right? Because we have these segments of society that are like, I feel like they're in these holes, they're in these back corners, they're in the sticks, in the woods, behind doors and basements, gathering, and they're perpetuating these ideas.
Well,
and then you have the weak-minded that hear this and they get overcome with it, and then they go out and do something stupid, right? So we got to change the whole conversation around this whole thing. We gotta teach people. People got to learn, man. Like,
education is important. It's also like the Virginia football players. That was crazy.
That
Some
was
guy on the
crazy.
bus. That's crazy. People they were in their sleep.
Yeah,
some of them.
yeah.
It was,
but that wasn't a hate crime, was it? That was just
I don't know what that was.
That was just a shooting.
That dude just shot his old teammates, 3 of them.
Oh, he was a former player. I didn't know that.
He was a former player, and he was on the bus. The field trip came in, and as it stopped, he pulled out his gun and started shooting.
Wait. He was on the bus? Why was he on the bus?
He was he's a student.
Oh, he was on the team. Was he on the team?
Yes, he was an ex-team. I don't know 100%. He wasn't like he used to play, but he wasn't officially on the team. But he went to school there or whatever. He was on the field trip bus, and then he just started shooting. Then he walked off. He didn't shoot anybody else. It was like
he shot those 3 and walked off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Idaho, there's a guy that loose in Idaho. They still don't know. He stabbed 4 college students at 2 a.m. Blood everywhere. No murder weapon. No idea who it is. There were 2 other roommates in the apartment at the time, it was a flat or whatever they're renting. Yeah. But
he killed them.
Yeah,
they died.
Moscow and Idaho. What's that?
They died.
Yeah, 4 of them. 3 women and a guy, and the guy's still out there. They have no idea.
Oh my
man, Reg, you too busy reading the news? It's a dark time right now.
Dude, man, you don't understand, man. It's been the 18th. November 18th was the 13th anniversary of my boy Moki, who took his life.
Passed away.
Who died. No, he didn't pass away. He died by suicide, right? So that's been, I got together with some of his friends, which was great. But
it's interesting you bring that up. I just got a mental illness T-shirt in the mail today or yesterday. 988. Is the thing they're trying to push for people to call. But my friend, I had a friend, and his son just killed himself last year.
Jeez.
And it's really sad.
Well, and then what about this actor, Jason David, whoever the Power Ranger guy? It's he was 49.
He killed himself.
He killed himself. He was the Green Power Ranger. Yeah, yesterday. 49 years old, married with kids.
Damn.
Moki, I describe it as Moki taking his ball and leaving. But Jamoki, he passed November 18, 2009. And 35 years old, man. Like,
yeah, man, it's
it's
tough, man.
It's sad, yo.
It's something like a lot of times people, it crosses many of our minds, and you got to remind yourself it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yes. And
but it's
I've
hard.
said that.
You can't.
It
You
is.
can't
It's hard.
remember that.
Yeah, in those moments, man, it seems so real and so potent, right? It is to them, right?
Right.
I've always said, I've never been mad at him about the whole thing. Not once have I ever had any anger.
I had a friend who killed himself, and I was a little angry with him.
Nah, you can't be angry with them, man, because they were doing what
he called me the night before too.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry. You gotta understand, they're doing what they think is the best thing to ease their pain, right?
Right.
That's what it is. So, but I've never been mad at him. I just wish that he gave himself a little more time to get past, to get over that hump. But that's not to say that he wouldn't have done it later, right? Because it's really about your mentality. It's really about help, medication, awareness, exposure, access to services. So, I 15 years I knew this brother, man. Roommate, co-worker, teammate, neighbor. We lived a couple blocks away from each other. It's hard, but I don't mourn what I lost. I celebrate what I had, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about what I missed out on. It's just about being happy about what I had, the opportunity, what I had, and what the experience I had with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. And then, I'm still dealing with this house, and then it's just the world at large. There's a lot going on, man. So I can't keep up with everything. But I will say this. I want to say, condolences to everyone who lost someone recently. And, dark times. It feels like we're in dark times.
Gun violence in this country. There's an epidemic. Here's some comments.
Let me finish this statement. I'm like, I feel like we're in dark times, but just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. The sun will come up tomorrow, right? And no matter how bad it is right now, it will not last forever. Nothing lasts forever. So just keep that in mind. All right.
Time heals all.
Yeah.
All right, now it's tough, man. Time. So someone after the shooting, I did put up our evolve. I had our evolve people, like you were talking about musket. There were no musket mass shootings, and how you need to evolve people. And then I'm talking about even how the Bible, some homophobe in Leviticus wrote something anti-gay, and now that's such a thing. Right. So anyway, someone wrote, "You're not saying to ban arms, right?" Now, first off, don't come in with like, you got this, I'm fucking intimidating, right? Like, what the fuck if I am? Fuck you.
Hold up. You understand that messages and content, messages and comments don't have tone. Whatever tone there is, you're adding tone.
You put a right on the end, you don't fucking come at me with a right.
He could be like, you're not talking about banning guns, right?
No. Rhodes is already in the way. So this is my response. I was like, you're not saying mentally disturbed people should have such easy access to military grade weapons, right? And then eventually he goes back and forth. It's annoying. And then he's talking about how, the typical cliche argument, in case it's a tyrannical government's going to take over, right? And I was like, hey, man, I haven't had that in my lifetime, but there's been numerous mass shootings. Doing nothing isn't a solution, evolve. And this guy's like, the fact that they could take your home from you and make you pay an illegal income tax is a form of tyranny. Our forefathers went to war for less. And I was like, you don't like paying taxes, so you don't want to limit hateful, mentally deranged people from getting military weapons? Sounds selfish and dumb.
You know what? You really relish these moments. I swear.
It's fun. Sometimes
you relish these moments. When it's all I hear in there, honestly, is fear.
Yeah, man.
They're gonna come and take.
That's what I said too. I was like, oh, you're just afraid of the government.
Well, he's afraid of everything. Afraid of You probably never learned how to cope with loss, right?
So then we'll do one more brighter comment before we let in our guest here. Okay. This is from Good Idea, fan of ours. She wrote, sourdough roll or sliced wheat bread if I'm concerned about carbs. So unfortunately, Bay Area people are brainwashed by the sourdough bread. Oh, the poll! I did the poll on TikTok.
Yeah, I saw that.
26 people, 50-50, right down the middle.
There you go.
So
Yes.
I mean, nobody fucking knows. What do you mean?
So
Yes, that's a draw. It's
that's a
nil.
draw. So that means that there is
Yeah.
no clear winner. Italian does not
Yeah.
absolutely trump
Lot of-
sourdough,
lot
at
of-
least for 26 people.
Italian just doesn't have as much of a following.
Yeah.
All right, let's let in our guests. You can start bringing them in. I'm going to admit them right now.
All right, let's do it.
I do.
It is
Introduce him.
It is with great pleasure that I introduce you to headliner, world traveler, comedian, friend, and extremely funny guy, Mr. Tom Rhodes.
There he is, baby.
There he is.
In the
Welcome
flesh.
to the show, Tom. Hey, what's up, Tom?
What's up, Reg? What's up, Sal? How are you guys?
Hey, Tom, how you
Doing
doing?
good. Looking
man.
good, man. You look
Thank
great.
you.
How are you feeling?
Fantastic.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us this morning, man. We're really excited about having you on the show.
Anything for you, my brother.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. I do. I appreciate it. Before we get into it, I got to share this. Our last guest was the most recent the San Francisco International Comedy Competition winner, Chris Riggins. And he shared a story about one night, a conversation that he had with you where you kind of whispered something in his ear that just gave him a super boost of confidence. And he felt really empowered by it. So
I love Chris. And I just saw he was at the Comedy Store on Saturday and he told me, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And, I love Chris, not to give anybody like an edge or anything, but I mean, I guess I did want to give him the edge because I love him.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted Chris to win,
Yeah.
And I did the competition years ago when I lived in San Francisco in the 90s. And I remember people psyching themselves out,
Right.
especially as it goes further to the finals and everything. So Chris was playing music in the dressing room. So there were these big theaters like the Santa Rosa, the Luther Burbank Center, and really, really beautiful big theaters. And comedians get nervous on that alone, but Chris was playing music in the back and everything. So I'm not like a crazy sports fan, but I like baseball, and I love Ted Williams, and he's the greatest hitter of all time. And so Ted Williams' whole thing was to be a great hitter, you got to stay loose.
Right.
So I told Chris this. I said, keep playing the music, because he's in the back. He was dancing and he was staying loose.
Right.
And you can see the other comedians freaking themselves out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So I I pulled Chris aside and I was talking to him and I said, man, just keep bringing the music, keep staying loose, because that's the key to being a great hitter and great comedian.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, he went on to win, so kudos to Chris and big ups to you for dropping that knowledge, sharing the knowledge, right?
Yeah, man. Maybe when he gets his own television show, he'll let me be the UPS delivery driver or something.
I was hoping that's good, because I was hoping for the bellhop.
I'm bringing him his checks.
Right. I'm glad you asked for the UPS guy, because I was looking for the bellhop. I just wanted to open the door, be like, welcome.
Do those still exist?
I don't know.
I mean, the worst thing that ever happened to bellhops was luggage with wheels on them.
Awesome.
That's funny.
Oh man, so Tom, man, it's so good to see you. It's we go way back. Back. You remember the first time? Remember when we first met? Remember where we were?
I remember you were a real young comedian. I don't know if you had just moved to San Francisco, but
it was
the Bay.
Well, we did a show, and it was very early in my career, but we did a show at the Manteca something of commerce. It was a Manteca some of commerce show. It was just you and I went up and did whatever 15 minutes or whatever, and then you just went up and slayed. And we hung out before, and then we did our show, and then we hung out afterwards. And it was just like, I swear I was like, I hope I know this guy forever, right? Like I was like, you were so cool, man. You were so down to earth, and you were so nice and supportive and kind. that I was like, yo, I want to be friends with you. Like, even if it's not just a comedy thing, but like straight up a good person in your life, like friend type of deal. So and then over the years, just in passing, it's been great seeing you. So
why haven't I heard from you in a few years, Red?
No, seriously.
I guess you found some better friends.
No. Never. You know what it is? I look at your IG and you're so busy, right? I don't have long distance on my cell phone, so I can't call Dubai, right? So,
yeah, but
I'll do a better job.
They get texts in Dubai.
I think Instagram
Emails
still
too, I'm
works,
sure.
or Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
Skype is free. All right, I'm done with you.
No, it's all good. I'll do a better job going
the
forward.
first time, I mean, I don't think Tom remembers it, but the first time I ever opened at the Punchline was with Tom Rhodes. And I remember here, I even have like a picture to prove it, but I remember you had this like jacket. There you are.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
I remember you had this jacket and it was like custom made for you, and you were like
tailor-made, yeah.
Yeah, tailor-made, and it had like some red Japanese insignia on the back or something.
Oh, that was the Hindu symbol of Om.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly? I don't.
Om is the eternal vibration of energy that is in everyone and everything, and it represents all of God's creation of everything that ever was and everything that will ever be. And I wore it because I'm a pimp.
There you go. I'm saying, like,
yeah, I can tell what period of my life that was. So I lived in Amsterdam and I had the late night talk show on Dutch television, which is miraculous that I ended up with my own show on Dutch television. So I was living in Amsterdam doing this late night talk show, and then also playing in Europe. I got really into suits for a while, and there was like a 10-year period where I was wearing glasses, and I was rocking these suits, and then I learned all about suits, especially like in London. All these London comedians dressed like $1 million, and I would hear these English comedians eviscerate each other by saying things like, in the dressing room at the Comedy Store in London, "Hey, that's a nice suit. It's a shame about the lining." So I learned all these things about suits and everything. So I had a bunch of suits tailor made, and so when I moved back from Amsterdam, I was rocking suits, and then I had these tailors making suits for me who were actually they were Hindu, and I had them stitch the Hindu symbol of Om on the back because George Harrison of the Beatles invented the concept of the charity concert with the concert for the people of Bangladesh. And it's a famous, concert in, I think it was Madison Square Garden, 1972 or something like that. But he had on this kind of white pleather looking suit. And on the back, he had the symbol of Om stitched on it. So I had the idea from that, and then I had these Hindu tailors, and I was like, "Hey, can you do this?" and they did, and I still have a lot of beautiful suits and everything, but I almost never wear them on stage because I learned, especially traveling around America, a lot of people think you're a douche if you're wearing this.
But yours look good though, man.
Yeah, but I mean, it's almost better to look,
kind of bummy. Okay.
Yeah,
I know
man
you have
of the people.
Yeah, I know you have the one with the red lining inside, right?
Lining, yeah. I got really into. It's all about the details, like everything in life.
But that red popped. Like, you walk around and every once in a while, your jacket opens up and that red hits you. That joint was nice.
That was cool.
but I can dig it. You got to do what you got to do to make the people feel
well. And then also, I learned the reason why men invented suits. My theory was to hide their burgeoning stomachs.
Totally. I can see that.
So I actually started this year heavier than I've ever been because I ate so much chocolate and ice cream during the pandemic. And this year I became obsessed with hot yoga and roller skating, not at the same time.
Bikram yoga, right?
Yeah, well, it's not called Bikram anymore
Oh, no.
because he was a dirt bag, and I think he fled the country. Didn't you see that Netflix?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I
there's
didn't.
Netflix doc. The guy was a total dirt bag.
Oh, dude.
But
Okay.
but I mean, he just arranged these ancient poses is really what he did. But it's the same sequence of poses that Bikram did, but they just call it hot yoga.
Okay.
So
I've done that too, by the way.
I've lost 30 pounds. I am I'm more svelte than I have been in 25, 30 years, and you won't catch me wearing a jacket on stage now.
Nice. I've just for the record, I've done Bikram yoga. I mean, I'm sorry, I've done hot yoga. I had a good friend who was really into it, and he begged. I'm not gonna say he begged, but he asked me. He invited me to go with him a number of times, and
was it Dan Gabriel?
No. It was a friend of mine that I played basketball with in college.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was really into it. Even was thinking about becoming a yoga instructor, and he kept inviting me to go. And I was busy, right? It was like doing shows, and he always go early in the morning. It got to the point that when I didn't show up, like we had beef. Like he was upset with me. Like he had stopped talking to me about not going, right? Like he was, so we addressed it, and I finally showed up one morning, and I tell you, it was like one of the most amazing things I've experienced in the sense of having been an athlete and playing on a high level, and having that level, knowing that level of intensity, and like pushing myself and kind of just pushing yourself and being in that, challenging your body in that way.
Yeah.
I promise you, when the class was over, I felt so invigorated. It was, I was sweating, I was pouring, but my body felt alive. It was like, it felt like I had played a full game, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I hate it every time. It's brutal. but when I leave, it's you exactly what you described.
Yeah.
It was comedians who got me into it. But when I think probably about 17, 18 years ago, Dan Gabriel and Robert Hawkins and a few other little group of comedians, San Francisco.
Yeah, we know those guys.
Friends of mine. They were into it, and I went with them. So I got into it for like a 5-year period, and then I did not do it for 15 years. And then and then I started doing it again in April this year. And the first 3 months doing it, it's so intense because you're hanging upside down and blood's rushing to your head, and people get dizzy all the time. But also the intensity of the heat. So I would have to lie down for half the class, and I'm panting and begging for Jesus and just like totally wiped out. There's a 90-year-old woman who goes to this studio all the time, and the woman never goes down. And she's crushing these postures, and I'd be on the ground, just totally wiped out, and I look up at her and just feel kind of pissed off. But now I'm in the rhythm. It's so awesome. In LA, there's so many like kind of good looking people and everything.
Yeah,
I love it. You see these young people in their early 20s come in, and like men and women who are like, you can tell they're really in excellent physical shape,
right.
Athlete looking people, and they always go down on the ground, like after 3 postures, and then and a bunch of them will get up and leave. And
wow,
there's nothing better than being an older person in the hot yoga, and like you're crushing it, and then seeing some 23-year-old who can't take it
and stomp out.
I love it.
That's awesome. That's funny. Yeah, it's intense, man. And I've also seen, I saw, I watch your, I follow you online, so I see the roller skating, right? And it's cool, man. It's really cool to see you out there doing your thing, because it looks like you're really loving life right now, right?
Thanks.
Yeah, it looks like you're loving life.
Well, I think that it's you know, and let me just point out, you know, I lived in San Francisco for 7 years in the 90s, and this is my third time living in Los Angeles. I always hated it.
Mhm.
I was the quintessential San Francisco snob, and I looked down on LA. But the best thing about Los Angeles is this endless miles and miles of jogging bike path
Right.
along the ocean. So I'll take my headphones out there and just crank music and just go skating, and it's it's the best thing in the world.
You wear a helmet?
No, no, but I
No.
wear knee pads and elbow pads.
You ever
Okay.
fall on your ass?
Yes, many times.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah.
But unlike those young people in hot yoga, he keeps going. He gets
Yeah.
up
Well,
and
I
he
mean,
keeps
nothing
going.
serious. I mean,
Well, I
Yeah,
tell you,
yeah.
well, I tell you, I there's in Venice Beach, there's this roller boogie area
mhm.
where these people, you know, play music
Yeah.
and they're dancing, and I personally think roller boogie is our only answer to save humanity, and end war and unite everyone. So in January, I was in the roller boogie area, and I asked someone to show me how to skate backwards, and
Oh yeah.
I was trying
Ooh.
to, because once I learn how to skate backwards, I'm going to buy some tight orange silk shorts. But I fell and sprained my ankle in
Oh,
Ooh.
okay.
and that took a couple months to
Yeah.
to get over.
You
Yeah.
know, I will say this, during the shutdown, when they took down the rims, right, at the ballparks, all of a sudden in the evening, like there's a basketball couple of basketball courts close to my place. I promise you, in the evening, everyone would come out with their roller skates and they cranked the music up, and it turned into what you like, the disco, but like people out there, you know, doing the whole thing, riding
Yeah.
backwards. And oh, it was great. My son and I would drive by sometimes and just stop and watch the people out there, you know, just boogieing up. I was like, man, maybe I should get some roller
Yeah.
skates, but it's been a while. So
I want to be those people.
okay.
Yeah. And I I keep my skates in my trunk.
Oh wow.
So I mean, I'm ready to skate anywhere at any time.
You know
Wow,
what that
man.
means? That means that it's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I used to keep a basketball in my trunk, because you never know when a game could just break out, right? You
Yeah.
see a
I
basket, you
used
just
to
got to
have
get some
that.
shots
Yeah.
up, right?
Or just if
So
something needs to be decided on a jump ball.
Ah.
nice. All right, Tom. So I want to ask you this: where did comedy start for you? Like, where did you grow up, and how did you? Were there funny people in the house? This is so Sal and I, we like to kind of go back to the origin, and we're trying to figure out like what drives people, or what's that catalyst or that spark that makes people want to do what we do or what we done.
I was born in Washington, D.C. My family is all from Washington, D.C. My mother is she's from Buenos Aires, Argentina, but she moved to D.C. when she was 14. And
Oh
she
wow.
actually met my father when she was 18. So all my family, born in the district, old Washingtonians. My father loved stand-up comedy.
Oh.
And Pryor was my father's dude. My father just absolutely loved Richard Pryor.
I mean, it's cool. That shows your dad's hip right at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My I remember driving around with my dad, listening. He had Richard Pryor cassettes or 8 tracks or whatever the time period was, and they didn't have seatbelts back then. So
Yeah.
I remember, and certainly not baby seats. So I remember being like a little kid, standing next to my father as he drove, listening to Pryor, and I'm standing and I had my arm on my dad's shoulders as he
Whoa.
drove, and I just remember his shoulders shaking from laughing,
Wow.
and then also my dad loved Bob Newhart. So we had like I grew up with my dad had Newhart and Richard Pryor vinyl records in the house. So I remember hearing those. But my uncle did open mic night comedy in Washington, D.C. for 1 year. 1978. I was 11 years old, and my father took me to see him. And
wow. Okay.
the stage was next to the entrance. It was a thin shotgun shack looking room. And I was wearing a Washington Redskins jacket. And we walked in, the show was in progress, and the comedian on stage pulled me on stage and he interviewed me like I was the coach of the Redskins.
Wow.
And I mean, I was just, bashful, dopey little kid. I just gave, one word answers. Yes, no. But I'll never forget standing on that stage and seeing all those happy people with their heads thrown back in laughter and all the teeth in their mouth. And that moment changed my life forever. I never wanted to do anything else from that moment onward. I became like a student of stand-up comedy. But also another important thing is that Washington, D.C. is a very diverse city.
Mhm.
So I know I've romanticized that moment in my mind, but in my memory, the audience had all the flavors of humanity,
Mhm.
Black people, Asians, Latinos, every kind of person. So in my mind, when you were on stage as a stand-up comedian, you were speaking to the world.
Right.
So I just, and then after the guy pulled me up and I sat at the bar with my dad sipping Cokes and watched the show. And I just thought these were wizards of great power who could get up there and make all these, people laugh.
Wow.
So my family moved to Oviedo, Florida, which is outside of Orlando, when I was 12. And when I was in high school, I got to host all the pep rallies. And my senior year, I did the morning and afternoon announcements. Everyone knew I wanted to be a comedian. So I got to do all these things. And then when I was 17, I took a fake ID to the local comedy club. And then I got in with the with it was called the Funny Farm when I started, and then a year later they changed the name to the Copa Banana. Still one of the worst names for a comedy club ever.
Yeah.
And so like my junior and senior year of high school, I kind of stopped going to the dances and the football games, and I was at the comedy club every weekend.
Wow.
That's so young.
Yo, that's so young. Wow.
Yeah, and then when I graduated high school, I kind of went straight on the road. I had made contacts with some of the headliners that when I first started, when I was 17, the club in Orlando only used local acts, and then when I was a senior, they started bringing in some headliners, and a few of them got me work. Like I remember my first out of state gig was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I drove halfway across the country to MC for $150.
That's a true comedy story right there.
And it
True
probably
comedian.
cost me more money in gas to get there.
Absolutely.
But I'll never forget pulling into the Tulsa, crossing the city limits and thinking like, I'm in showbiz, man.
Yeah. Nice. Wow, I feel like that's the story of today right now, still driving, countless hours for $50, but that's just the love of it, right? The love of the craft. So, okay, so now you're kind of getting on the road and opening for people, meeting headliners. When do you leave Florida? Like what happened? You work your way up in Florida in the clubs from the opener to feature? And
when I think I was 17 or 18, Jay Leno played at this jazz club in Orlando called Cheek to Cheek. They used to bring in kind of big name headliners, and I didn't have a ticket. I wanted to go I wanted to see if I could hear the show at the stage door exit.
wow.
And the opening act walked out, and I put my foot in the big metal door before it closed. And I got to sneak in backstage, and it was a tiny little backstage, and I could watch the show through the curtain. Like, here's the curtain, and then I could actually look through Jay Leno's legs, and I could see the audience. So it was like I'm watching the show through the crack in the curtain. The show ends and he comes back. Hey, it's me and a friend of mine. Hey, what are you kids doing here? And Jay, and he was an edgy political comedian back then. He wasn't
Right.
the
late night guy we saw.
what he became.
Right.
In the 80s, he was pretty edgy rock and roll.
Okay.
I guess I don't know, but compared to what else was happening at that time, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
But so I told him I wanted to be a comedian, and he was really kind and generous with his time, and he was telling me if you want to be a comedian for real, you have to live in New York or Los Angeles.
Oh wow.
So I made this plan. I moved to New York City. I took that advice as gospel, and I moved to New York City when I was 20 years old, and I wasn't ready yet. And I could only afford to live in Washington Heights, which 1987, 88, whenever this was, crack was coming to the neighborhood, and you could hear gunshots at night. And on Cabrini Boulevard, where I lived, there'd be burning, smoldering cars in the morning. People would steal cars in Lower Manhattan and drive them up there and just set them on fire and walk away.
Wow.
And so I had like no money, couldn't get on at the good clubs. Moved back to Florida for a year and licked my wounds. And then I always thought that like a higher intelligence of comedy came out of San Francisco. And I just was really attracted to and I think stand-up comedy was invented in San Francisco, and that's why I always call San Francisco the Jerusalem of stand-up comedy. And so I got my stuff together and I moved to San Francisco when I was 22.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
and then and I knew like one person out there. I'd come out and done a guest set at the Punchline because a headliner I had worked with on the road got me a guest set. And then from that, like a year later, I was invited or somehow got on to the San Francisco comedy competition, which was like almost a year after this guest set,
Yeah.
I did that when I was 21. And then so I moved to San Francisco for a gig that paid no money to do the competition.
Right.
But everything fell into place for me there. And then and the Punchline and San Francisco is where I because I wasn't doing the Southern circuits, were tough.
Yeah.
I played all over the South, and I'd grown my hair long, and I was called the F word a million times and heckled by every kind of moron redneck. And then in San Francisco with diverse, intelligent audiences, I felt like I could blossom and talk about anything I wanted.
Right.
And so it was crucial to the development of me as the human being that I am today and the comedian that I am today. And then all the television, I think like 94, I started being like kind of the face of Comedy Central, and they had discovered me in San Francisco. I didn't have to go to LA or San Francisco.
Really?
I built a reputation out of San Francisco, and that's where like Comedy Central discovered me. And then remember back then, in the early 90s, there was all these cable stand-up shows like Evening at the Improv and Caroline's, and I got all of those, and I got all of those living in San Francisco, and I didn't have to. So
man, that's great.
Jay Leno's advice was total bullshit.
Zing! And we come full circle. I love it.
Yeah, because that was like during the birth of Comedy Central, right? And you were like the first guy, like you were the face of them. I
was like the face of the channel for a couple of years. Yeah, they let me do everything.
Wow, that's awesome. And they just see you performing on shows, or did they come out and do talent shows? Were they, what I mean?
Like, well, in Montreal also, the Just for Less festival, they sent their scout to San Francisco once a year to look at comedians, and then whoever was in charge of Comedy Central came to San Francisco, and they had a showcase at the Punchline, and
Wow.
they picked me off of doing a showcase they saw at the Punchline.
Wow. Who were some of your peers at that time? Because I'm sure
in San Francisco, God, it was such an amazing comedy scene. Mark Maron, Patton Oswalt, Blaine Capatch, Margaret Cho, Greg Proops.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really, really, really killer scene. And we were all young comedians, like just trying to impress each other with how well we could write witticisms.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we loved it. Reggie and I came up in SF, and I loved it. I loved it. Like, now coming like here in LA, you could see, like, I'm glad I came up in SF. It just seems like it helps you blossom, like you said.
Yes.
Yeah, it's because you have a higher intelligence of people, and my favorite kind of audiences are multi-ethnic, multinational, and somewhat intelligent and well-informed.
Right. You want them to get it.
You can't find that any place better than New York, Chicago, but it's not. I think those scenes are a little more competitive than in San Francisco, where it just, even now when I go there, the comedy scene's amazing. And everyone seems to like each other. There's not a lot of backstabbing and shit talking, jealousy and things like that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I loved about it, right? Was the camaraderie. I mean, we all actively helped each other. We would have writing sessions all the time. No one was rooting against anyone.
Yeah, right? I always felt it was more about the art in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, and also that can like give you a false sense of, because I remember thinking, I've just always had that mentality that like comedians are my brothers and sisters, and that we're like exclusive club of fighter pilots, but there's a lot of people that don't look at it that way, and
now it's like, I got more TikTok followers. Fuck you.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of cutthroat out there. They don't say congratulations, great set. They go, how'd you get that set? Who'd you call? Right. Like,
well, I mean, I've always hated bullies, and stupidity and bad manners and aggressive male behavior are the three things I hate most in life. So through my career, I've always been amazed at, when you see someone acting like a bully on the comedy scene, or when you're on a show and you go and like you say hi to a comedian and they don't say hi back,
right?
Or
weird.
You're in New York and like, or whatever, and you're on a show and people don't say hi to you. I just find that fucking weird.
It's weird.
And people who walk around like they're the cock of the walk, I mean, it's there's nothing wrong with having confidence, and you got to be a really mentally focused, strong person to fight the fear as a comedian and get up there and deliver the goods. But just being a cock for no reason. I mean, the reason I got into comedy was to get away from people like that,
Right. I've only encountered a handful of those guys. And like you, I kind of feel like, it's a brotherhood. We're all in this together and we're working toward a common goal. And you later find out like, you're one of those guys where it's like you're only communicating with me or around me because you think I can do something for you, because I know someone, right? Or because I'm friends with someone else. So it's not about our relationship. It's about what you can get out of this relationship, right?
Yeah. Right. Look at you as a stepping stone.
As a stepping stone.
Right.
I won't say his name, but there was a comedian that I worked with years ago, and really funny guy. I think he's extremely talented and exceptionally funny. And we exchange phone numbers and we stay in touch a little bit. But he always called me to run ideas, like to go over ideas and kind of work on jokes and things of that nature, right? And I give him tags and I think about misdirections and the second story and expanding and whatever. And at the end of the conversation, it was always like, all right, cool, thanks, Reg. And he'd be out. Now that happened like the first couple, maybe 3 times. By the third time, I was like, hey man, I got a couple ideas. And he was like, oh man, you know what? I got to get going. We'll do it next time. And then it happened again. I was like, okay, yo, it's a wrap, right? Because it's not symbiotic, right? It's not give and take. It's all
There's a lot
take,
of
take,
streets
take.
named after that guy.
There's what?
There's a lot of
streets.
streets named after that guy.
Yeah, really.
One way.
Yes, absolutely. 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 So, okay. So,
hey,
what
well, I
was
want to
that?
ask him. So, like, you got the Comedy Central, and I remember you had like a comedy doc on Vietnam. You went to Vietnam, and then I'm kind of curious about that because I recently found family from Vietnam through ancestry.com, and you chose it because your father was a Vietnam vet. Is that why you
Yeah,
picked Vietnam?
my father flew helicopters in Vietnam,
Okay.
and he was shot down, and
Jesus.
everyone in the helicopter died except for him and his co-pilot,
Wow.
who he who was knocked unconscious, and he dragged him across the field. Anyway, my dad got like, I'm looking at the medals. That's why I was.
Oh man.
My he was killed by a drunk driver, 11 years ago. So so Vietnam was really important to my dad, and I kind of grew up with the war and all the movies and all that shit. So when Comedy Central was letting me do anything I wanted to do, Bill Clinton had just lifted the travel ban on Vietnam, and I pitched this idea to them. Let me go there and show that Vietnam is a country and it's not a war. It's more than just a war movie. That's all we were fed in America, And I said, let me go there and have fun for the guys who went there and didn't get to have fun. So, so I did all these. It was really, really amazing to go there, and it hadn't really opened up as the tourist destination that it is now. And that kind of put me on the map. It got really nice critical write-ups, Viva Vietnam. And then when I like a year later, and it came on, we filmed it September 94 and it came on April 95, kind of in recognition of the 20th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War.
Wow.
So that was July 95. I was discovered at the Montreal Comedy Festival by NBC, and that led to my sitcom. But it was the strength of that Vietnam special is what got me the deal. I have since been back to Vietnam. Let's see, went 94, and then I didn't go back until 2014. Because there's some really great gigs there. And
really?
Yeah. Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon it's okay. And the shows I did there were okay. So I've been back twice too, and I went back about 5 years ago, and then 2014. And Vietnam is one of my favorite places in the world.
Wow.
I was going to ask you about that.
So sweet. The culture is amazing. The food's amazing. And one of my favorite cities in the world is Hanoi. And Hanoi has got a phenomenal local comedy scene with expats. There was a kid who opened up for me in 2014 when I did this gig there. And he told me, he was like 19 years old. The guy grew up in Hanoi, and he told me he wanted to be the Eddie Murphy of Vietnam. Eddie Murphy was his favorite comedian.
Okay.
So he said, he asked me to watch his set and give him any tips or whatever. So I'm watching this guy's set, and he delivered everything like Eddie Murphy in Delirious, but he had the thoughts of a 19-year-old who grew up in Hanoi. So he's strutting the stage with like he's like, when you're on your scooter with your girl on the back, and some dude pulls up next to you and he's looking at your girl.
That's great.
So great. I loved this guy. And then when I went back, about, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years later, that guy had stopped doing comedy. There was a really great female comedian, Minha Pham, who opened for me the next time I went, and she just so smart, clever, funny. She's from Hanoi. She actually had gone to University of Minnesota.
Wow.
And then she met a American comedian in Hong Kong when they came to see my show. I was playing in Hong Kong. And they're married. They have a kid now, and they live somewhere in the Bay Area, but she stopped doing comedy. But whenever I message to her, I always tell her, God, you should be doing comedy in San Francisco. Really super funny. But anyway, I love Hanoi. There's an English guy that runs the comedy scene in Hanoi, and he used to give motorcycle tours of the north of Vietnam. So I've been afraid of motorcycles my whole life, but I prepared. And the last time I was there, we went up into the mountains, and I was 45 miles north of Hanoi, and I had a motorcycle accident, and it was a dusty, wavy mountain road, and the bike slid out from under me, and my head hit the pavement. But fortunately, I was wearing a helmet, and I just got a little scratch on the elbow.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
But anyway, I got that motorcycle somehow back to Hanoi, and I will never drive another one. But I can't stress enough how cool Vietnam is, and if you haven't been there,
I gotta go.
Yeah, I haven't been.
Spend the smaller amount of time in Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, and spend the majority of your time in Hanoi.
Okay, good to know.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. I want to just say sorry for your loss of your dad, man. That's really unfortunate, considering he survived Vietnam and a helicopter crash, and then come over here. And, that's really unfortunate. Sorry about that, man.
Thanks, Reg.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry,
did your dad,
man.
before we go on, did your dad did he suffer any PTSD from that experience?
No.
Okay. He was okay. All right, cool. So you mentioned it now, because I was going to ask you, because I was going to mention to our audience that, I don't know anybody else who has performed in as many places as you have around the world. And I was going to ask you, what were some of your favorite cities? So we know this one in Vietnam. Where have you performed, and then where do you love performing of all the places outside the States?
London.
Really? London? Okay.
Yeah, London is amazing. The Comedy Store and the Soho Theater. Paris, I love. There's smaller rooms there, but really cool, great rooms. I loved Amsterdam so much I moved there. So, but Hong Kong used to be amazing, but not anymore. It's too bad. Hong Kong used to have a great comedy scene, and also Beijing and Shanghai used to have really great comedy scenes, but they killed the English language comedy shows that were happening.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But Sydney, Australia, there's a great little room in Bangkok. The guy just reached out to me. He told me he's got a new hot room in Chiang Mai. I'd like to check that out.
So let me ask you, when you're performing in a lot of these places, it's English speaking.
I was gonna say,
like the Asian countries, a lot of expats, you're saying?
Well, like China, for example, people couldn't understand how was it possible for me to perform in China. Like people would ask me, and I would say, I don't speak Mandarin. or Cantonese. So when I go on stage, I have to bring a rake and step on it, and it hits me in the balls. And Chinese people, it's hilarious, but I have to keep doing it over and over. It's a really long hour for me. But here I'll be able to dial in your focus with this. So not only do you have, oh my God, Switzerland has got a great tour. I love Switzerland.
Wow.
Berlin, Germany has amazing. There's a club in Oslo, Norway called Latter, which is Norwegian for laughter, which is amazing. But so in China, you know, like Hong Kong and Shanghai and Beijing, the expatriates that lived there, you had every flavor, like Swiss, Italian, French, but also, you know, we won the lottery when it comes to the language, because, you know, you think of all the English speakers, Australian, Irish, English, American, Canadian, blah, blah, blah. So the audiences would be half expats and then half English speaking Chinese people who either had grown up in English speaking countries or were educated in English speaking countries. Like my friend Min Ha from Hanoi had gone to university in Minnesota. You know, you'd meet people from China who had gone to University of Indiana or where.
Right.
And then tons of them that had gone to university in the UK and had fallen in love with English language comedy while they were there.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's
really cool.
Now might be a good time to point out, in 2019, I put out an album called Around the World, and I recorded it in 24 cities around the world. It starts in Paris.
Wow.
And it ends in Jerusalem. Every track is a different city around the world. And
Wow.
it's all mostly jokes and stories about those places. Because you know, I've played most of these places for over 20 years.
Yeah.
There was a few on the list, like Jerusalem and Berlin, that I had to write a bunch of. I hadn't played there for 20 years. I had to write a bunch of stuff before I went, you know.
Okay.
Wow, man.
That's amazing, Tom. Real quick before I forget, you probably should write the book. I don't know if you've written the book yet, but I think it would be a great expose on comedy and travel and the city. Like it could be almost like a guide for everything, right? Like the perspective of a performer, but also the perspective of a person who grew up in another place and in these countries and has experiencing the culture, right?
Yeah.
And dude, it would be a phenomenal book. Every chapter is a different country, and then you have stories about those experiences. It's a bestseller, dude. New York Times bestseller.
I've been working on that book for years, and I tried to really pull it together during the pandemic. And I've got about 12 chapters, and every chapter is a different place like that, you know. And it's my best travel stories. Like I almost drowned in Thailand learning how to dive. I was maced in Paris the first time I went there. I had the late night talk show on Dutch television. So
yeah,
I have been working on that book for years, but the last 2 years I just put it on the back burner and haven't thought about it. So thanks for the nudge.
Okay. All right. Well, no, that's great though, because it makes me feel like, you know, it's all about serendipity, right?
Yeah, no, and another thing, another place that I love is Tokyo. There's a great little room in Tokyo, and my album Around the World was supposed to be 25 cities around the world, not 24. But I had my little Zoom recorder on this ledge. There's a little club that holds like 100 people in Tokyo. And when I finished my set, I turned around to grab my Zoom recorder, and it fell off the ledge, and I lost that recording.
Wow.
So there was supposed to be a Tokyo track, and the album was supposed to be 25 cities around the world, but that's why it's 24.
Okay. So Tom Rhodes around the world. Where can people find it now? Is it?
I mean, it's on, Spotify pays no money,
Okay. Okay.
But it's there, and it's on iTunes, and
You
Okay.
recorded
All right.
all that with just a Zoom recorder? You didn't need
Yeah.
a mic to stay the audience too? You just did it with one of those?
yeah,
That's
Nice.
amazing. Those
Yeah,
are
that's
pretty
awesome.
damn nice. Those are
Yeah, they
really
are.
nice.
They are.
yeah.
Okay, well, Tom, let's go back real quick because you talk about NBC discovering you in
Here
Montreal.
he is. Here's Mr. Rhodes.
Yeah.
Long hair.
Yeah, man. That's a handsome dude right there, dude. Look at that.
That's amazing. Farrah Forkey and Ron Glass are both dead now.
Oh shit.
Oh wow. Okay. So condolences to them.
Sorry.
No, it's all no. You don't even know what we talked about before we brought you on. So
No,
it's
and I always say it because I grew up watching Barney Miller,
mm-hmm.
and Ron Glass was my hero before I had ever met him, and then to actually be on a show with him, and him and Stephen Tobolowsky, the balding man in that photo, were the best, because that show was frustrating. The best things that I got out of it was my friendships with those two men.
Okay.
And Farrah Forkey was my love interest, and I didn't find her a very pleasant person. And Ron Glass played my nemesis, and I absolutely loved and adored this man. Right. So I had never acted a day in my life.
Right.
And here's this woman that I disliked, that I had to pretend that I was in love with. And
that's hilarious.
And then here's this man who I absolutely loved and respected, and I had to pretend like he was my nemesis. So for someone who had never acted before, I think that's asking a little too much.
Yeah. How long did the show air? How many seasons did you get?
One full season.
One full season. Now, I did see something recently that you posted on, was it Instagram? It had to be Instagram, but it was about this show, and I kept watching it, and it's about the producers and the writers and the direction of the show and what you wanted to do, like the show that you wanted to do and the show that it ended up being, and because you were saying that it was frustrating to do it, that was a part of it, right? Because you went into it thinking, or you were hoping for something different. Is that correct? And then it kind of turned into something else?
Well, I mean, the original, I wanted to be a public defender lawyer originally. And then they said that they had a lawyer show fail. Can they make Tom a teacher? And who knew that year there was going to be like 4 other teacher shows coming out at the same time. And then also I had envisioned that, or the way it was explained to me, that the kids would just be background, that it was going to be more of an adult themed show, and the focus would be on the adult teachers. But it was the opposite. They were trying to make a children's show, and I didn't realize that until halfway through.
Right. Man, that's got to be frustrating to get to that point, to have this opportunity, right, on a major network, and your name is in the title of the show, and then you're doing the show, and it's not the show it's not the show that you want to do, that's got your name on it.
Well, here's the funny thing about life. Because that was so many years ago, that was 25 years ago. That show not working out is the best thing that ever happened to me.
There we go. Okay.
Because I had gotten a rock star apartment in the Hollywood Hills, and I was dating this actress, and I had a view of all of the lights of Los Angeles, and all we did was walk around naked, drinking wine from goblets. And had that show been a hit, I would have crawled completely up my own ass, and I wouldn't have traveled the world as a comedian. I wouldn't have moved to Amsterdam. I wouldn't have had all this international experiences and knowledge. I wouldn't be the fully rounded person that I am now. So it's funny. I mean, I I was kind of pissed off for a few years after that show that I had kind of gotten burnt, that I didn't have control over it. But now I look back on it, and it was the best thing ever. And I'll tell you, here's a similar piece of advice, because Stephen Tobolowsky, if you notice the man, the with the male pattern baldness, the white guy in the photo.
Can you pull up again, Sal?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
He's one of the greatest character actors in American history.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
He played like one of the bad guys in Mississippi Burning. His most famous role, he played Ned Ryerson in Groundhog's Day.
That's right.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
the
yes,
insurance.
yes. Yeah.
And he's also such a beautiful man and such a great guy. In the course of our friendship, he told me that him going bald was the greatest thing that ever happened to him. Because before he went bald, he was going for all the lead male roles.
Right.
And he was, getting, more handsome men were getting these roles. Once he lost his hair, he became a character actor.
Right.
And then there's not enough days in the year for this guy to book all the work that he has.
Wow.
So it's funny, like, to remember shit like that. Like when, you think something bad has happened to you in life that, it's there's a good twist to it coming up for you somewhere.
Perspective, right? Yeah, perspective. I love it. I love stories like that, because hindsight is 2020, obviously, but having the ability to take something that may not have worked out and then seeing, where you were and then where you've been and how that may have hindered you. It's about perspective. I love it.
Yeah, it's you from like that show and then that show not working out. How do you end up going to the Netherlands of all places?
Well, I had lived in New York City when I was 20 years old, like a dog. And I was broke and it sucked. And I always swore if I ever had any money, I'd live in New York City with style. So I moved back to New York City. I got a Rockstar apartment in the Wall Street area. In retrospect, I should have moved back to San Francisco, because that's where all my friends were. That's where all my love was. And, but I had to right that wrong, man, because I had lived in New York once and it was hard. But my friend Rich Hall was killing it in London, and he told me that he thought I had a smarter humor than most, and he thought that I would do well in London. So I looked at that money I had from the sitcom as my NBC artist grant. So I moved back to New York City to focus on stand-up. And then also I started taking these trips to London, and he coached me. You don't go to the best clubs first, you do the peripheral rooms first and get your sea legs, find out what works, what doesn't work, and then you go to the best clubs and get in. So on my second or third trip over, I did the best clubs, guest sets that led to work. And London was the key to the international circuits for me. Once I got in with London, that led to gigs all over England and all over Europe. And I had played in Amsterdam. And I fell in love with a Dutch woman. And I thought, hey, there's all these gigs in Europe, and I can fly back to the States whenever I want. So, and I always thought being a comedian, it's about your life experiences for things to talk about. So I thought, hey, that'll be a lot of stuff to talk about. So,
wow.
So it was getting in with London, and then getting all the work I could handle in Europe that made me move over there.
And then you were like big enough in the Netherlands, because I mean, I've read they called him, Reggie, the Letterman of the Netherlands at the time. So like, how the hell you get a big late night show in a country like that then? Just from doing the stand-up gigs?
Yeah, they were looking for an American to host a late night talk show on Dutch television. Same kind of format. Opening monologue, 5 minutes, and then you banter with the musical guest, sit down, do a skit, bring out the first guest. So they had tried these kind of shows with Dutch presenters, but they didn't have the same pizzazz or flair, apparently. So they had the best comedy club in Amsterdam was called Toomler, which is a Jewish Yiddish word for traveling merrymaker. So they had that's what we are. We're traveling merrymakers.
I like that.
I like that.
So they had the showcase at Toomler, and I had just come back from Hong Kong, and I had a beautiful suit tailor made. It may have been one of those ones with the red lining that you were talking about.
Yeah, man.
And granted, I had probably the best set that night of all the other comedians, but all the other comedians were dressed like they were going to cut the grass. And so I think not only the fact that I had the best set, but also I looked like
right.
A television presenter, because I had this pimp ass suit.
That's funny.
So that's how I got
it.
That's cool.
Wow. And how long did the show last? It was
like 5 years.
Went on for a while. Yeah, that went on for a while.
I was on television. I lived in Amsterdam for 5 years, but I was on television for 3. So I did 3 seasons of the late night talk show. They have these little abbreviated seasons there. So for 2 years I did 3 seasons on the late night talk show, and then the same network let me be a presenter on a travel show.
Wow.
And so I got to do a highlight on the Champagne region of France, St. Petersburg, Russia, Peru, the Dutch Caribbean. It was a dream job. So I was on television for 3 years there, and the last year was this travel show.
Wow. That's awesome, Tom. I mean, dude, it's like you just showed up beast mode. Start at 17, 18.
Yeah.
Right. Sneak into a place, meet a guy, go to New York, go back to Florida, go to Tulsa, end up in San Francisco, go to dude. And then all the spots around the world. I love it.
With such highs, because there seems like so many highs, like this travel show and the sitcom, and then it just ends. Like, how do you deal with that? Like that's a roller coaster. It's tough just in regular comedy world with highs and shows and stuff. But that's amazing to me. How do you deal with that bounce back and that attitude?
But Sal, if you listen to it, every time there was a high,
but it works out. But he doesn't know that when it comes crashing down. He doesn't have this hindsight yet.
Dude, Tom, before you answer this, I just got to say, he was on a TV show in LA, and he said, in his words, he had a rock star apartment overlooking the city, right?
And then it just goes away.
But hold up, though. Then he moved to New York, and he had a rock star apartment in the Wall Street district, dude. This is not a person who feels like they're worried about. They're like, okay, one thing ends, I'm moving on to the next, right? Like,
no, Reg, let me point something out. My ex-girlfriend that I lived with in San Francisco in 1998, she bought the top floor Victorian home we lived in.
Okay.
I think for $375,000.
Oh my
God. On Alamo Square Park.
Ooh.
Wow.
I think that place is worth $6 million now.
Easy.
So I had this sitcom money. The sitcom was 96 and 97. In 1998, instead of moving to New York City and pissing my money away on a rock star apartment, I could have moved back to San Francisco and bought one of those beautiful Victorian homes.
Oh yeah, you'd be set. No, I get it.
So let's not go praising these rock star apartments too much.
I'm not praising.
Had I really had any kind of smarts, I would have bought something in San Francisco.
Rock star real estate.
Yeah, really. No, but the point I'm trying to I hear you. I hear you 100%. Because I have a friend who
I do wish I had been smarter with that big bag of cash.
but you know, you're young and you feel like it's gonna last forever. I had a friend who his grandmother left him her house in San Francisco. He got this house at like late 20s, early 30s, and he's thinking, oh, I can sell this and get the bag of money at that point. And he sold it. He sold it. And at that time, he sold it for, you know, 350, 450,000. Now that house is crazy, right? But you don't know. But I was just saying that based on, you know, how you're living, in the sense, if I feel like you were thinking, look, I've done it once, I can do it again, and I'll keep it moving, right?
Well, how many NBA players think they're only going to have one season? You know, that's exactly
Right.
you know.
Right. And but then when you don't make it to the NBA, then you go play over in Europe, right? I know guys. I went to
I
Europe for a
guess
short
that's
bit.
what happened to me.
Right, you go play in Europe, man. I know guys that have own car dealerships in Texas right now for money that they made playing in Europe, right? So it's Arj is in Australia doing his thing. So there's other places to get it.
Well, I'll be I'll be smarter the next time.
There you go. So okay, so back to Sal's question: how did you manage the highs and lows though? Were there some moments where it's like,
it's rough, man,
stressing?
and I mean, and you know, as a comedian, you got to spend so much time by yourself on the road and hotel rooms and stuff. You know, I used to be a heavy drinker, heavy partier, and you know, I mean, I just have always comedy's been my number one drug, and just leaned heavy on that, and just believing in the experience, believing in the path, believing in the magical healing qualities of being a comedian, and then being able to make other people laugh. So I just, in all those drops of fortune, I just threw myself into stand-up comedy as hard as I could. You know, and then also, you know, numbed myself with drugs and alcohol, but you know.
I remember Greg Fitzsimmons told me once, he was just like, because he had writing shows and stuff, but he's like, but you always got that girl comedy you could go back to.
Yeah. That's it.
Let me ask you this. So how do you, Sal and I talk about how comedy has changed now, right? And just with all the social media and the followers, and you know, how people are comedy's so digestible now with all these little clips. And I see a lot of young people getting these opportunities that are headlining that I feel like they haven't put in the chops, right? Like I remember sitting in the back room and watching you and thinking, man, it's airtight. The jokes are funny, right? They're great setup, misdirection, punchlines, presence, stories, short jokes, whatever you need. And I'm watching these new people and I'm like, they got all premises, man, right? But the industry is changing. How are you adapting to this new world, I guess, as far as
that's the way it is. Like, remember, it was like all these YouTube comedians that got massive off of YouTube before that, and now it's TikTok. It's something. I mean, these tools are beneficial to all of us. I mean, the fact that we can do this podcast, you can have this podcast, but I can talk to you remotely in LA. It blows my mind how easy it is to edit and send videos. And to be able to post. It used to be so difficult to find a good editor, and then mailing goes stand in the post office and mail a friggin' tape to somebody, and now you can just, with your phone, and you can post on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok or whatever. I mean, these tools have changed the game for all of us, because we can all, my tribe is stand-up comedians, but then also you got to look at your little fan base. It's your little tribe of the people that love you, and you can communicate with these people directly, and you don't have the gatekeepers of networks or friggin' radio or whatever keeping you out. So I mean, you can only look at it as a good thing. And then those people who are momentarily massive from TikTok, or that 10, 20 years ago were momentarily massive from YouTube, they're the ones that are in the most trouble, because how many times are you going to go see somebody that's not funny?
Right.
And
Yeah,
then,
no, you're right. You're right.
and then once their power of being able to sell hard tickets and put asses in the seats disappears, and they have that hard drop, they're the ones that are in the most trouble with, drugs, alcohol, suicide, all the all the evil shit that gets in your brain when you feel like a failure.
Right.
So,
Right.
if you got a good core group of people who love you, and friends and family, and it's I boxed when I was younger. I just that whole Muhammad Ali mentality of
Yeah.
it's all mental,
Right.
and even when you're getting your ass beat and you're against the ropes, like one time Muhammad Ali was knocked down. I think it was the first time in his career he was knocked down, and he said he was on the floor and he realized, I'm the king, and the king doesn't belong on the floor.
Okay.
So I got up. And then also Muhammad, I've said this so many times, Muhammad Ali's corner man was Bundini Brown.
Yeah.
And Bundini Brown actually is the person who came up with the float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Rumble, young man, rumble.
Yeah. So Bundini Brown was always in his corner telling him, stay off the ropes, champ. Keep your gloves up. Jab, jab, stick, stick,
Mhm.
So as a comedian, you have to be your own best corner man in the back of your head.
Yes, sir.
In life, on stage, when shit ain't going well for you, you got to keep telling yourself you're the champ. The champ doesn't belong on the floor. Stay off the ropes, champ. You're doing great. Don't give up. So I mean, I feel bad for those young comedians that blow up so quickly off of that shit, because like me living in the Hollywood Hills, it would be very easy to crawl up into your own ass, think you're wonderful, and then the moment that shit disappears and people don't want you, is when you're gonna be in trouble.
Right. Yeah. You gotta face the music. Man, that's great. Wow. I mean, yeah, I love that. That's awesome. You gotta be your own corner man, or you gotta be your own cheerleader, right? Like you have to, you gotta.
All right, Reg, well, that's probably a good place to end it, right? You want to hold this guy up all day?
That's good. Yeah, no, that's good.
If I have a Bundini Brown book, somewhere I want to read. I have a biography on Bundini Brown.
That's funny.
That's how into this philosophy I am. Hey, and I have not been. The San Francisco Punchline is where I got great as a comedian. That room changed my life, and of my favorite, I'd say that is my favorite comedy club on the planet Earth. And it has so much special personal significance for me. And I have not been there since before the pandemic. Okay. So I'm back at the Punchline December 14th through the 17th. So
awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Okay,
perfect.
then I'll definitely come out.
That's the perfect timing for this too.
Yes.
Yeah, good. And
yes.
Yeah, we actually have some Bay Area. Bay Area is like our biggest audience, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I need to sell some tickets so I can come back and
seriously, that's what it is right now, right? So, well, Tom, man, thank you so much, man. This has been awesome,
man.
This has been awesome. Yeah, really appreciate you taking the time.
Wonderful to talk to you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. I'll see you in December. I'll be there one night for sure. And we'll put this out and hopefully you can help sell some tickets, man, because you're a funny guy. Seriously.
I love you both, and I will hug you soon.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
Tom. Thank you very much.
All right, Tom.
Sir.
Thank you, sir. You have a great day. Okay, bye.
Nice work, Reggie.
I like Oh, you got Tupac in the corner. Look at that.
Oh, shit.
Are those all postcards in the I'm sorry, Tom, real quick. Are those all postcards from different places?
Yeah, that's all shit. Wait. How do I turn the screen around? Yeah. That's all postcards from
wow.
God damn.
Dude, that's awesome. Dude, that's amazing. Look at
holy
that.
shit, dude. Look at his
Dude,
wall.
that's
Yeah, it's postcards I've collected, and then I'm also a big reader.
yeah.
Look at this
Oh, you know what,
guy.
Tom? Before you go, I love the desk too because you
Look
have
at
your
his
podcast as well.
Fucking library.
I know, I love it. Look at that library, dude. Tom, oh my, and the record
And
collection.
albums. God damn.
Yeah, dude, the album. Look,
Forget the
Tom,
Hollywood Hills.
Yeah,
Jerry Lee
exactly.
Lewis.
This is way better.
Yeah. Oh, you got the
Oh,
King's disease. I see you.
nice.
I
Yeah.
see you.
So 3 is not out on vinyl yet, so
3 is good. I've listened to it a couple times. It's good. Nasir is
haven't heard
always, yeah.
I haven't
Well,
heard
hold on, real quick before you go, because I know you have your podcast, right?
Yeah,
What you do? Yeah,
I
you want to
haven't.
plug that?
I haven't put one out in a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know I saw some clips early, and you had some really great guests on there too. So, yeah, man. All right. Well, dude,
Thanks,
look
buddy.
at that space, Sal. That's what I'm
Dude,
talking about. That is it, dude.
This is
That
my bedroom.
Oh, I'm seriously. I'm like, I wouldn't sleep in it. I would not hang out in any other room in the house.
That
Like, it
shit's
would
the
be there.
shit. Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing.
You're
and showing
welcome.
us.
Yeah, Prince.
Wow, man, that's
I'm
like,
sorry, Tupac, Prince, Fela Kuti, baby.
No.
Wow. Oh, look at
Oh,
that.
shit.
Reggie Jackson, love it.
Yeah.
Prince.
All right.
You know, I saw Prince live, man. That was one of the most amazing moments for me. I saw him in New Orleans the year before Katrina. And prior to that concert, I was like, I was like, Prince is okay. He's whatever. And then watching the concert and seeing this guy on the guitar, right?
The best.
By the end of the concert, I swear to you, I was like, I was crying. I was like, he's so amazing.
I saw Prince in concert 4 times. And Sal, you mentioned Viva Vietnam.
Uh-huh.
Came out in 1995. Prince's keyboard player Tommy was a fan of mine from Viva Vietnam.
Wow.
I was at Acme Comedy Club, and he came to my show. Yeah. And he said that in the summer, Prince does these jam sessions at Paisley Park. It starts at 3 a.m. Would I like to go? And so he set me up, and I invited the other comedian to go with me. He was a local guy. He didn't want to go. Oh. He figured he'd have another opportunity. And it was, and I'm a Prince fanatic. There were only 50 people there. And Prince was walking around, and then he jammed for like 3 hours. It was his girlfriend Mai Tai's birthday, so she like kind of danced around him in some white floaty thing while he wailed like Hendrix on that friggin' white guitar. Oh, dude. And one of the greatest experiences of my life, he jammed for 3 hours. When Prince died, that comedian who didn't go with me that night was the first person I heard from.
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
I can't believe I didn't go with you that night. Yeah, totally.
Well, I was smart enough to go. I was like, Prince, whatever. And then it was awesome, one of the, man. And then I saw him at a Warriors game. I was sitting in the lower section. He was sitting literally like it felt like, 10 yards away from me. So I really got to see him courtside, the Afro. They gave out his album that night, Music. And I was like, man, if I could just,
that's the one with Prince. That's the one with Baltimore on it, that album?
I think so. Great.
God, what a great song.
Yeah. So
okay, guys, I gotta hit it.
Yes, sir. Yes,
later,
sir.
man. Thanks, buddy.
Sir. Take care.
I love you. I hope I see both of you
back at you.
Okay. All right. Peace.
Yeah, Red, you trying to compare your Prince story to him? Get out
Hold
of
up,
here.
dude. What? I just told my story first.
No one wants to hear your story.
Who's talking about trying to compare? It would be comparing if he told his Prince story, and then I was like, and I went to a concert.
At a Warriors game. No one cares. This dude was there with 50 people jamming.
No, of course not. But what I'm saying is right before he passed, like I saw him that week.
Oh, yeah.
The week before. It was like right before. And I posted it on my Facebook. It was like a week or two maybe before he passed. I posted on Facebook because that night I got the CD. I took the picture. He was sitting courtside, and I took a picture of him on the Jumbotron. And I was like, yo, I was in a building with Prince last night, sitting like 10 yards away from this dude. Like, it was amazing. I
remember.
What up, Sal? But wait, Sal. You have got to keep it. You got to stay consistent, bro. What do you say at the end? at the end of our
There it
guest.
is. I said it earlier, but we were still dealing.
There
Yeah,
it
there it
is.
is. There it is. That was a good one.
That was a good one. Tom is
I remember
great, man.
Chappelle had some story. He's talking about when he went to the All-Star game and the basketball and with Prince. And he's like, it was crazy, man. He's like Prince, all these women throwing himself, and he's just walking by like it's nothing.
He's just floating by. That's the same story where he ends up in a hot air balloon with Prince in Vegas. Is that the one?
Probably.
Yeah, he ended up in a hot air balloon with Prince in Vegas. Dave Chappelle did. Yo,
But
man,
yeah,
that was
Tom
great,
Rhodes,
man. I really think
that's cool. He's coming to
Tom
the
Rhodes.
punchline, so you get
Yeah.
to see him next month. That's
Well,
dope.
and I got to give him props for
Check
busting
him
my
out,
chops
everybody.
early. Yeah, go out and see Tom. I got to give him props for busting my chops. He's right. I haven't been in touch, so I'll do a better job of KITing.
Cold-blooded, Reg. Cold-blooded.
Cold
Hitting them up when you need them on your pod.
Oh, dude, why are you gonna make me sound like that?
Just
Like it's not like that. It's just
no. Well, that's the thing. I mean,
yeah.
like people like you so much that you don't have to talk to them for 15 years, like Wendy Liebman or Tom Rhodes, and they'll still come out for you, dude. Or
Okay,
John C. Henton. I mean, all these dudes knew you from the club that's no longer there. So it's
no, it's back. Rooster Teeth Feathers is coming
word.
back. They're about to reopen. But hold on, let me just address that. You're right. I do not take that for granted. I really do appreciate, these are all people that I've worked with at various times, and I've stayed in touch with them sparingly over the years. But they've all come
there's only
out.
so much you can do when people doing their own thing anyway.
Well, yeah, and people are busy, and also too, I've established this contact with them in a professional way, but also been able to maintain some personal contact in a certain way too. But I'm always aware that these are professionals. These are people who are being people are always asking for something from them, and I never want to come across as a person who's asking for something right out of nowhere. Right. So it's really about the connection that I made with them. And so I thank them all for coming out, and it gives us some credibility, I think, being able to have who I think
it's
are
nice
really
you learn
great.
and I think it's entertainment.
That story right there, I mean, come on. Even just sharing
that's crazy, dude. It is apartment wall, damn.
I know, I love it.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you, Tom Rhodes. And Reg,
thanks,
so
Tom.
wrap us up, dude.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, hey, folks, hope you enjoyed our guest, Tom Rhodes. We know we did. We keep doing this, and we're going to keep doing it. We love it. So please, if you're enjoying it too, like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. That's Sal Kalani. I'm Reggie Steele, and this is Spitballin'. Peace.